So, Mucho Amor Lifestyle Podcast, and today I'm with Daniyel Jones, working with House of Angostura, but you're going to introduce yourself in a bit. And I'm doing this talk and I'm having you today here because a lot of young bartenders can learn and be inspired by your story, and as you never gave up. And it was not always easy for you to be now, you're one of the big guns in the spirit industry. Maybe you can get our listeners a quick introduction on how you get there.
Got you, man. Well, firstly, brother, I just want to say thank you, man. It's a pleasure. For me, there's a saying, every moment in life is a gift, and the people that you meet in life or the people that are in your life are also a gift. So I'm always thankful for the friends and the people that I get to meet. You're an example of one of those, man. So it's an honor for me to share this conversation with you.
No, it's an honor to have you here. Like literally, you're one of the most admired guys in the industry. So always smiling, always a gentleman, and like yeah, that's why I'm really happy. And I'm sure a lot of guys can be inspired by your story. So
Got you, man.
tell us, how did you get here?
Yeah, so bro, like I'm I'm from the Caribbean, man. Like, when we talk about bartending, the Caribbean is never in the conversation. Like you know it. Like Latin, South America is in the conversation, and you just have an attachment of the Caribbean. So you say, instead of identifying even the South American countries, which are also different, they group them together in what is called LATAM, and then you have LATAM and the Caribbean. I remember at one time when I was really getting into bartending, Diageo was trying to get into Trinidad, where I'm from, the island of Trinidad and Tobago, and the caliber of bartending was so poor that the Diageo World Class refused to host the competition there because, there was not many bartenders who were skilled at the level that we are exposed to today. So today I stand very humble and very proud to say that I'm the global brand ambassador for the House of Angostura. And I've held this position for the past 9 years, and I will be in this position much longer. Now, I'm from a small island of just 1.2 million people, but the island, it's known for a few things. We have a vibrant carnival, and we have expressive personalities, and the people are so happy with a lot of personality that really showcases the dynamic and the diaspora on the island. And one of the most significant features of this is, of course, Angostura, being the iconic bitters, having a range of portfolio of rums that are just so well appreciated globally. When it comes to bartending, you would think that having the bitters at the epicenter, one of the most iconic ingredients, cocktail ingredients, you think that the bartenders in this region really know how to do things like the bartenders in London or New York City, etc. But the truth be told, man, it's not. We're now in that process of trying to revive it. Angostura is trying to invest in developing it. So for me, I'll give you one story. I remember I started in TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays is not like the mecca for craft cocktails, but the training program was so good. I had no experience as a bartender, so I got in there as a waiter. And man, like my thing was not drinking. I was into sports, I was into chasing girls, and so for me, drinking alcohol was not a thing that I was consuming. So I got into the bar, and I was like, man, I looked around and I'm seeing banana liqueur. I'm seeing, like more other things beyond rum and beer. I'm seeing vodka, gin, tequila. I'm like, whoa, this is a massive world. And I'm like, there's food like drink, like the equivalent of it. So I would go to work early and set up my waiter station. And then I would go and help the bartenders set up their bar station. And they were like, why are you doing all this work? It's not necessary. But they were happy because I was doing their work for them. But I'll tell you one of the key things. So I'm going to share with you 3 points that I think every new bartender should hold on to. And the first is vision. If you don't have a vision, man, if you don't know where you're going, like you're not going to get there. Like you jump into your vehicle, and when you put that GPS on, like you look on Google Maps, like, okay, I'm going here. It says 15 minutes to get to that destination. If you don't put your destination 15 minutes before, you're not going to get there. So I had this vision of one day having a restaurant, a fine dining restaurant. And between you and I, bro, and everyone that's listening, I did not grow up with a gold spoon in my mouth. You know, I did not have food. I remember going days without food. And I appreciate when I get a hot cup of coffee today. I appreciate every morning when I feel warm water on my skin, you know, like I'm filled with gratitude. So I remember, you know, having this dream of, I didn't get to go to restaurants,
Right.
but I had this dream of one day, maybe I could own a restaurant one day. That was my dream. So I would walk into TGI Fridays, man, as a waiter. And I would look at the place and I'd be like, one day, my plan was I would learn how to be a waiter. Then I would go in the bar. I would learn to be a bartender. Then I would go to the kitchen. I would learn to be a cook. And then maybe I could become a manager or supervisor for TGI Fridays and learn how to manage a restaurant. And then one day create my own. Vision. So I lived in that vision, man. That vision just kept me going. I would go to work and I was going to school at the same time. And that was it, man. I was just school, work, jump in the bar, clean up, take the mats, wipe down the stations for them, go do my waiter thing. And when I was finished with the 3 months, that was part of the probationary period, I just went straight into the bar. I was not wasting time, man. I could eat just rice and beans. That was okay. You know, my vision was there. I did not have opportunities like many other people, but I had a vision and a dream, and that was keeping me going, man.
Love it.
So when I got into the bar, into bartending, I started seeing how challenging it was. Even though TGI Fridays had a great system to train you, the culture was not focused on that. These guys, they were not interested in that, you know. But I really wanted to learn. And I started purchasing books, and I started, you know, at that time, the internet wasn't what it is today. So like, you know, TikTok and YouTube wasn't a platform that you could have jumped into.
Right.
And I remember, bro, this is the story here. So when I got into my first week in the bar, on the Friday and Saturday nights, I would take bags filled with empty bottles, and I took them back to my room at home, and I set up a dry bar. Wow. And I would look at the labels on the bottles and read, and I would smell the ingredients. And that aroma connecting with what I'm reading right there helped me memorize all of the different spirits that was in the inventory at TGI Fridays. I took all the bottles that they had there, man.
Wow, you make the
you'd walk.
gives me goosebumps, brother. nice, amazing.
Brother, listen to me, man. Can you imagine? I'm moving like a homeless guy with a bag of empty bottles on my back when I'm leaving work, man. People are laughing at me. Yeah, people are laughing at me, man.
Wow.
So that's the first point. I would say vision. It doesn't matter where you're at, who you're working for. They could be the biggest, you know, the biggest asshole out there. They could be someone who's just unhappy or unkind to you. You could be with a great team, right. You know, but always remember, you have to have a vision, you know. And so there's a saying, don't try to get the wind to be in your favor. Just take the wind as it comes and sail and navigate as best as you can.
I love that. Nice.
All right, so that's the first point. And the second, after you have your vision, your vision requires you to be motivated, right? It needs fuel, because your vision could just sit there. Like I could have just say, okay, well, it's a dream and it's too far away. I need to live in reality. I have bills to pay. And, you know, I want to live a life. I want to be able to enjoy a life. But something about having a vision and believing in it is the key to motivating yourself. You see, if I did not believe in that vision, I would not be motivated. So motivation comes from it has different requirements. Mm-hmm. I would say to myself, I'd get up every morning and I'd say, okay, you could do it. You could do it. Don't be afraid. It could be a real thing. It could happen in real life. You could have a restaurant one day. Keep believing in yourself. And I would speak to myself every day. Speak to myself, you know, say you are good. You are focused. You are strong. When I was tired and exhausted, I'd go in the bathroom and I'd watch myself and talk to myself, brother. Nice. And to this day, that I still do that in a different manner. When I meditate, I speak to myself and I say to myself, you can do it. These dreams and goals that you have, you can achieve it.
Energy.
And as I kept going into the bartending thing, it started getting more difficult. So I spent a lot more time just developing. And within that time, I built a reputation on the island of, you know, being a great bartender. And so I got job offers. And one of the job offers I got was to work with the 3 top chefs on the island. They were aiming for a Michelin star restaurant. And, so they wanted the top guys, and I was their head bartender there. And this was no longer the blue and pink and green cocktails with flaring. This was now fine, craft style cocktails that require craft ice and great ingredients and understanding how to make classic cocktails. So I started mastering classic cocktails. And then they also had one of the largest wine lists in the Caribbean. So now I'm like getting into the sommelier era where I'm diving into wines and understanding. So part of that was learning. And I always had this desire to learn. I was fascinated with the Japanese bartending style. And then I would look at the American bartending, how they would stir and how they would shake. And I started looking and I started investing. Every time I got a tip, I put the tips aside. I wasn't going to drink or do drugs, man. Like, listen, man, I have a dream. I need to fulfill this thing, man. I did not grow up having things, and I was not going to just, let my life just wither away with whatever I felt to eat, Sometimes you think if you have all the money in the world, you could eat whatever. But the truth is you don't. Yeah. If you have all the money in the world, you're not going to eat pizza and beer every day, man. There's an understanding that you have to place limits in your life. You have to develop a healthy routine. You have to invest in your motivation. So that's the second tip. All right. Investing in your motivation is what's required. So motivation requires you to believe in it, believe in that vision. Motivation requires you to be disciplined to create a routine. When you can put those elements into your motivation, you're going to get up every day feeling that engine moving, And the last thing I would say, that is the third point in this, in young bartenders, is passion. You must have a passion for it. Now, this passion could come from, sometimes we think you just have to have this 100% passion. It doesn't have to be 100%. You may just have a fascination with it. I might look at you, Simon, and I'll be like, oh, I like how this dude looks. Yeah. Or I like how he made that cocktail. Or I like how he was interacting with these people. Or I just like the energy that you have. And you might be the inspiration that gets me into the territory of starting to look at it. Yeah. And when you see something that ignites you, something inside is igniting, like, oh, I like that. Stay with it. Stay right there. Start diving more into it, because there is a natural GPS that we have inside of us that leads us to our passion. So that passion for me is needed. If you don't have that passion, you're going to wither away. You can take a good seed, put it in the ground, it starts to shoot up. But the moment you stop putting passion into watering and making sure it's fertilized, it dies. It could die at any moment. It could almost be a fruit and it could still die. Wow. So you need that passion every day. When you get up, you say to yourself, listen, I love it. You focus, you invest into it, you read books, you follow people, you have mentors. You don't have to ask someone to be a mentor today, man. I could find a mentor on TikTok. I could find a mentor on YouTube today. I could listen to your podcast and find many mentors from your podcast. Yeah. So finding a mentor, finding people to help feed your passion is important. Because I'll tell you, I remember when I was as a waiter in TGI Fridays, the guys that I went to school with, I went to a good school, man. We studied hard and I went to a good school, but the guys that I went to school with, they were already getting their degrees. And here I am, a waiter, serving these guys, man, the same guys I went to school with. And I remember I went into the locker room, man, into the changing room, and I had to say to myself, you know why you're doing this. You have a dream, and there's a reason why you're doing this. And there's a biblical proverb that says, the greatest of leaders are the greatest of servants. And it's really a philosophy that reminds you that in life, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to success, every business that's successful is serving you something. All right. So when you understand that service is a part of leadership, service is a part of success, then it changes how you approach it. Wow. So that's what I started doing, man. I started looking at this thing and listen, man, these guys are going to be clients at my restaurant. So let me start serving them today. And I started taking this approach instead of feeling like, I was nothing, or feeling like I was low on the end of the spectrum of people who were successful. So just to reiterate, your vision is necessary. Have a vision, sit down and just take some time and dream, daydream.
Love
All
it.
right. Forget Netflix, forget TikTok. Just take a moment and just start dreaming, man, and write it down. And the second is to put your motivation in a nice bubble, write it there, and understand that you have to invest in discipline and you have to invest in the belief of yourself. Because I say belief, and I'm just gonna go back for a moment into that, because when you come from different cultures, bro, you're challenged with how you perceive yourself. I come from a Caribbean culture. People look at me and they see African because my dad is African, but my mother is Indian. My great grandmother is from Delhi, but you don't see that. You see African. And sometimes when you go into certain cultures, I mean, as a global brand ambassador, I've traveled to over 75 countries and cities around the world. You know how it is, right?
I know how it is. Yeah.
And I can tell you that belief system, if I did not shatter the cultural belief, they told me I couldn't do this. Yeah. When I was in the Caribbean, man, I would go to bartending jobs wearing a suit and they would laugh at me. They're like, you're in the Caribbean, man. Who do you think you are? And 3 months ago, I was in Dubai, right where you are, bro. Not in the same place, you know, but in Dubai. And I remember, you know, the heat, right? I remember standing in the sun and feeling the 40 degrees hitting my body with a suit on. And I said to myself, 9 years later, 75 countries later, here I am in Dubai, still wearing a suit. You know? So you have to believe in yourself. Even if you don't expect anyone to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, put that belief, put that discipline, and when you put it into your motivation, it's going to keep it moving. And the thing that keeps everything together is your passion.
I love it. I love it. And I love your advices because they're real inspiring advices. That's not like I pick up a book from Elon Musk or whoever, because he might have a different mindset. He has already reached it, but you walked up the whole stairs, and that's why it's super, super powerful. And I'm really thankful. Like, amazing. How did it go on then? Like you from the restaurant, I think you had like a little catering business as well. I think you told me once or read it.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a saying, bro, be employed until you can deploy yourself. All right. So I started as the bartender, I started working and I remember the island has only 2 hotels. Today, it's only 2 major hotels, Hyatt and Hilton.
Right.
So when I was finished with my degree, I was about to finish. I wasn't finished completely. And I was like, man, like, where do I go when I'm finished with my degree? And at that time, you know, I had dreadlocks and I was like, man, like, you know, like, the truth is, man, let me just be real and frank with you. Yeah. They were not going to hire me in a high position, even though I would have the qualification. Yeah. Because of my skin color, because of my ethnicity, that was a limitation. And I sat through, I remember thinking a whole day, it was almost like a day of meditation, because I kept wondering, where do I go? I put all this work and I'm realizing they're going to give someone who is a girl who is pretty and doesn't know anything, the position of manager or supervisor, and they're not going to give that to me, even though I have more qualifications, I'm more qualified than this person, but because of the ethnicity and the way people see people in this island, the culture here is going to limit me. I said, what do I do? And by the evening time, I decided, man, like, I need to start my own business. Because by investing in myself, I would have the opportunity to have creative control. Right. I would be able to put myself as you know, I would be able to lift myself up instead of fighting against the people who are trying to pull me down. And I decided to start my own. So the concept, I looked for what could I offer. So I was good at cocktails. I was, you know, and I realized that there were no cocktail bars we had a lot of parties. There were no cocktail bars other than TGI Fridays. I mean, can you imagine TGI Fridays being the mecca of cocktails on the island, right? So I'm like, okay, we have a lot of parties, outdoor parties, we call them fetes. So I decided to create a mobile catering company that would, you know, today that's very popular, but back then it wasn't. Yeah. Right. I was the first to come with this concept of creating cocktails. I mean, I'm like, okay, you see Sex in the City, you see a Cosmopolitan, but when you go out to the parties, you can't get it. I'm like, you're dressing you're looking Sex in the City-ish outside,
Yeah.
and you want to be able to hold a Cosmo in your hands. So I'm like, let me create that for you.
Nice.
And I went out there, and the only thing I said to myself is, let me just focus on creating value. And this is a key element I would like you guys to hold on to. The key to success is not chasing after success.
Right.
The key to success is becoming a person of value, creating something of value. When you create something of value, people come for it. They say, can I have that, please?
Yeah.
You know, we get so caught up in trying to get all the followers. We get so caught up in trying to get, we're going after it. Right. When all you have to do is invest in you. Keep investing, keep building the thing. And when it becomes something of value, listen, man, people will come from whatever ends of the earth to come for that thing that's valuable. So I started focusing on that. And I remember I would look at online and I would see, you know, people in London doing these mobile bars, and they look so fancy and stuff. And bro, listen, man, I started building them with my own hands, you know, and I started building these little cubes that could light, and I did bars, and it went, you know, and it started, the moment I started doing that, I started getting, you know, clients, people wanting to hire me. But I remember I did not know how to do the administrative work. I didn't know how to do a quotation or how to do an invoice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, I wouldn't call the company, but I remember going to a company that was doing out like specialized events like that, but not in the cocktail range that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I went in the office and I said to them, I knew they were not hiring, but I went in and I said, shirt, tie, everything. I'm you know, the only one shirt I had, the one tie that I had. And I said, I would like to volunteer my services, please. From Monday to Friday, 9 in the morning, early in the morning, I'll be the first person, I'll be the last person leaving. I'd like to volunteer my services, please. The lady looked at me like, what is wrong with this man? Like, you're volunteering your service. And I went in there, bro. I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. All right. I just knew that I would do whatever odd jobs at night, you know, working as a bartender, and I would pay my rent. But I needed to learn how to do a quotation. I needed to know how to send an invoice. I needed to know the administrative work. I didn't know. I went to school, but they didn't teach you that. I didn't know. So they hired me there. And within a week time, I got a call from HR. I went into the office and they actually put me on the payroll. You know, I didn't expect that. Like, yeah. But the truth is, the business that I had started getting so many clients that within a month time, I had to leave. All right. So I took what I knew during that month time and I applied it to my business and I started growing. And the company started with very little. Like, when I say very little, I mean, I had $0. I had nothing. I remember I did a business plan and I went to an institute, a financial institute that is supposed to help small businesses. They're supposed to finance small businesses. And I went with this folder and I put it on the counter, and I was so excited because I'm like, I know this is a great business. Yeah. And the girl looks at it. She's not even the finance manager. She's not even the person she's just the receptionist at the very beginning. And she looks at it and she says, this is alcohol. We don't finance that. Not even in a pleasant way, not even in an apologetic way, not even in an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I could let you speak with someone. She's like, no. She pushed it aside and said, no, so that's not going to work here. Alcohol and tobacco is a no. And man, listen to me, man. Big man to big man, I cried, man. Like, tears rolled down my eyes. I was in the, you know, just because I knew how much work I put into believing in this thing. Yeah. And then after a few seconds of crying, not too long, you know, I wipe off the tears. I said, okay, it's time to fight. What do I do? What do I have that I can work with? I had nothing. So I'm like, all right. So I started doing odd jobs and I started telling people I have a company. I'm doing private events. And I would contact, you know, people like you, friends like you, and I say, hey, could I borrow your cocktail shaker? Could I borrow your bar spoon? Could I borrow your ice scoop? And I started borrowing stuff. And when I got paid, I would keep some for my rent, and then I would buy an ice scoop. Wow. I would buy a bar spoon. 5 years later, this company has a warehouse with 3 trucks. Wow. And a database of 100 staff on that database part-time. Wow. Man, brother. Yeah. And the client, yeah. the clientele that I had was all of the corporate clients, elite clients, the diplomatic center, the prime minister, the presidents, the ambassadors on the islands. Those were my clients. You know, I did all the BMW, Mercedes launches, Audi launches. Like, you know, when it came to high-end events, Daniyel company, that was the company that you call, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like super inspiring, brother, really, because it's
Yeah.
a story you can go into a business book, brother. Like, never give up. You had, like, as you said, the vision, the motivation, you were like feeding the passion, you had your mentors, and then now you became one of these guys who young bartenders look up, hands down.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, one thing we both have in common, you participated in competition and
Yeah.
you won it.
Yeah.
Became part of a brand, which is an amazing rum brand. Also the
Yeah.
bitter, I mean, that's what we have in common as well. Like the
Yeah.
founder of it, if I'm not mistaken, he was a German, right? Of the
Yeah,
bitter.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Inventor,
So
not the,
Angostura is iconic when it comes to, you know, it was created by a German physician. So,
yeah.
you know, it became very iconic. It has its own kind of unique story where it was not designed for cocktails, but its second career went into cocktails.
Right.
And to this day, it's still the #1 selling bitters and #1 trending bitters. You know, to this
you cannot
day.
have a bar without having the bitters in there. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
now,
So it's an honor for me.
it's amazing. Like, you're really
Yeah.
playing, you're with one of the big brands in the hospitality industry, hands down.
Mhm.
And of course, this requires a lot of traveling for you. And looking at you, you know, I'm always surprised how you can keep your shape. Like, I see you must working out like crazy, no? And my question is, how much time do you dedicate in the gym, and how do you motivate yourself? Like, because you have
Yeah.
a schedule which is from like 24/7, no? Like,
You know, it's when it comes to the health side of things, man, like one of the things that I've seen in my experience, I've been as a global brand ambassador for the past 9 years. I don't see people like you who look fit. Like a lot of the colleagues, their health start to deteriorate. For me, you know, I always want to feel strong. That's one element. We work in alcohol. Like there's a lot of drinking, you know, and I feel like a lot of people in the alcohol industry, they think that you're immune to alcohol. You know, and that's the error that you make. Like if we're working in alcohol, it means that when we are actually socializing, that's not the treat for us, you know. It's like you need time to detox, man. Like, you know, it's like you need time to recharge your body, like give your liver not only has to break down alcohol, but your liver is also responsible for the breakdown of protein that develops muscle. So if you really want to build muscle, and that's why you always find like it's divided. Like if you're into fitness, it's no alcohol. You know, it's like it's so divided, and you wonder why. And it's because we're sharing the liver needs to break down the protein to build the muscle, and the liver needs to break down the alcohol that you're consuming all the time. So if you really want to develop health, you have to give it time. So I'm not saying, my philosophy is work hard, play hard. You know it, man. Like I see you, man, we go hard, we play hard, but I can guarantee you this. I could get back to the hotel at 4 a.m, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in the gym. Like still, I'll be walking in there, you smell all the alcohol on me, but I'm going to go inside there, sweat it out, and get 2 liters of water inside of me before I start the next day, man. Like I saw you running the other day. I'm like, that is it. You know, that is how you do it. You did 5 kilometers. I was like, oh shit, you know.
Challenge. Yeah, I mean, it's so important, and you pretty much nailed it. Like on it's, you have to be the strength, you know. Otherwise, alcohol takes control of you. We are not demonizing alcohol, because alcohol is one of the most amazing things when it comes to the social part as well. If you're not, like, how many relationships started with alcohol? Like let's you know. But also we have to always be clear, especially in our position in alcohol. We work with alcohol. It is a nerve toxic, and we have to be aware of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so, but also a big part, I guess, for you is the nutritional intake.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
have
So I'm,
of it.
yeah, man. So I do very high protein, you know, it's like you have to know your body type. And so when I do intermittent fasting also.
Nice.
Well, I do it based on how my energy level is going. So intermittent fasting keeps me nice and lean. It gives my body time to, because you have, where your stomach is your visceral area. And that contains the most amount of blood in that area. Now, when you're digesting food, it needs time. Blood is going into that. It's moving. The engine is moving. When you fast, what you're doing is you're giving your body time to let the blood go elsewhere. So now it's not focusing on the digestion of the food. It's actually, it can go to different parts. So your hands, your head, like everything. So when you're fasting, that's why people who fast for long periods of time, it kind of gets all spiritual for them because they feel so energized internally. And that's why there's a lot of healing properties that comes from fasting. So for me, intermittent fasting is a big part of it. I would tell anyone, like, don't overthink it. Don't put pressure on yourself. If you can do like 6 hours, do it. But if your body tells you, I'm not hungry, don't eat. Like your body tells you, like it tells you when it's hungry, when it's thirsty, when it needs sex, when it needs rest, when it needs anything. Like, you know, listen to your body. All right. And then also now you need to know, okay, I know this, you know, like if I eat this, it's not going to be good. Like I just know it, right? We don't need to play these games anymore. But I will say to people, like, don't put pressure on yourself if you do fall into, you know, just deep diving into pizza all night. Like don't put pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
What I will say is get to a point where you stand up, you look at yourself, you're like, okay, I'm 60% or I'm 80% where I want to be right now. All right. What do I need to do? Okay, I need to lose 10 kilos or 5 kilos. Like, I'm like, okay, all right, no problem. Then set some goals. So set a long-term goal in the next 3 months, but that it's kind of far. So it feels like you can't keep up with it, but set that goal that, okay, by in the next 3 months, I'm going to get there. But you do a short-term goal, which is 2 weeks. You're like, okay, I'm going to go out with the girls 2 weeks, or I'm going to go out with my girl in the next 2 weeks. I need something. I need this t-shirt to look flat on me. Okay. All right. I want to wear this thing. I need it to look trim, right? Or I need the guns. I need the guns to be popping out, you know? So, okay. So 2 weeks time, you can still achieve something. So you set that 2 week parameter and you start going after that. You just keep thinking about that night or that place you're going or that event you're going to. And like, oh shit, yeah, I need to, you know, and you push yourself using small elements of short-term goals to help you get there. Right. So when you stand now and you go in the kitchen, you're like, oh, that pasta looks good, man. But in 2 weeks time, I need to put on that pair of jeans or I need to put on that t-shirt and it's going to keep you.
Boom, boom. Thank you so much, like, for all of this. I know we could go on and on for hours.
Yeah.
Really, you should consider writing a book about success, about entrepreneurship, about how to get up, about the motivation. Really, it's fascinating.
Thank you, man.
I'm really enjoying listening to you. And I'm sure many listeners out there, they will do so too. Like, brother, keep going. Like, you're one of the shining lights out there. And I can totally understand that you have been nominated at the Tales also as one of the best international brand ambassadors, like all the work you put into this. Keep going, brother. Really, I'm always super happy to see you. It's such an inspirational talk. And I hope in episode 200 or whatever, we're going to have you back.
Definitely, man. Definitely. And, you know, listen, man, like keep doing what you're doing. Don't think that it's, you know, sometimes we compare ourselves, and I'll wrap things up here with this, where sometimes you could look at your platform like, okay, I'm just reaching 50 people or I'm just reaching 200 people, like, you know, and I'll say to you, brother, it's not about that. No. You know, like when we look at the people who impacted the world, like who spoke to these people? Who spoke to Nelson Mandela? Who spoke to Mahatma Gandhi? Like who inspired that? We don't know those people. Exactly. All right. And there are voices like yours that you have this desire, passion to do something, and you're getting people because you walk into a room, brother, and people admire you. People like I was online yesterday when it wasn't even scheduled for yesterday, right? I said, I'm like, bro, I'm waiting. And because I was so excited just to have a chat with you, because I don't, I want to contribute. I do these things all the time, but I'm excited when I know the people that I'm able to invest in. And you're someone who is doing that. So keep doing what you're doing. I look at you and I'm inspired when I see what you're doing. Your passion for coffee, for tequila, like I see what you're doing, and the podcast is great. And I think the angle that you're taking is excellent. And I myself and others, I think we need to do more of this when it comes to the industry. You are an example for us right now, brother. So don't limit yourself by thinking I'm only reaching this amount. I'll give you a story that just analyzes that. I remember one time I was driving, all right, and this Porsche zoom past, like, sexy Porsche. I was like, oh, that, and it's going so fast, zoom, go past, I was like, man, I'm watching it just get smaller as it goes past me, right? I was like, wow, imagine if my car could go so fast, all right? And then 2 minutes later, I pull up at the traffic light, and next to me is the Porsche.
Boom, that's it.
And I said, the two of us reached at the same point, brother. The two of us. I was driving a vehicle that's 10 times less the price of yours.
Right.
It's much slower than yours. But here we are at the same point. So don't ever compare yourself, man.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's it.